Let's talk more about the story, get your legal analysis on the Bester and Magudumana escape. We can speak now to Nthabiseng Dubazana about the court appearance today by Dr. Magudumana's father and a G4S employee. Among the charges they face, Nthabiseng, good evening, is that of murder. They're accused of killing a person. We're not too clear on what the circumstances are. Is that vague level of detail standard at this point in the case?
Unfortunately, where we are, it's still at investigation stage, so the state now actually holds their cards very close to their chest. They're not going to reveal to the court or even the defense attorneys at this stage what they have. So if they're saying that they have a prima facie case against the accused persons for the murder, and from what I heard earlier, using the doctrine of common purpose, I would actually probably think it will be also being an accomplice. Over and above that, then perhaps there is something to it. But from what I've also what I understand rather from this case is that there were other bodies that were retrieved from a morgue, and from what we understand is that the deceased that was found in the burnt cell of what was supposed to be Thabo Bester's cell, what had been killed prior. So if there is a link that they have found in terms of how this person died, and therefore they have linked it to Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha, and then it could be by using the doctrine of common purpose, but more particularly, I would think being an accomplice, then maybe there's something to work from there.
And on murder, if indeed the man who's being referred to is the man whose body was put in the cell and passed off as, whose remains were basically passed off as those of Thabo Bester after the fire, we have learned that Dr. Magudumana allegedly then claimed that body, saying she was Bester's wife under customary law and had that person's body cremated. So with the lack of a body then and lack of DNA at this stage, how difficult might it be to prove a murder linking both these men who are in court today and Bester and Magudumana possibly?
Well, it is not uncommon for murder charges to be placed when there is no body to be linked as proof of the actual crime itself. What the court will work on is circumstantial evidence that will be brought to the court. And if the circumstantial evidence is strong enough, then the accused persons can be convicted. So it will be a matter of what it is that they have right now that is strong enough for the circumstances surrounding everything that has happened for the accused persons to eventually be convicted of murder. But it's a very dangerous gamble that the state is doing, because it is not always advisable for the state to proceed only on circumstantial evidence, because sometimes, in fact, a good majority of the time, they lose such cases because there is no evidentiary evidence before the court.
And we say that, of course, still not knowing the full details around this person who's alleged to have been killed by the pair in court today, Mr. Sekeleni and the G4S former employee, Senohe Matsoara. Now, when you look at the two of them and their role in the case and the charges they face, would it be too soon to start looking at the state possibly using them or reaching out to them in order for them to turn state witness? Would they be the sort of, for want of a better phrase, ideal candidates for that sort of thing in building a proper case against Bester and Magudumana?
100%. That's the best way that they would approach this. They would definitely try and get 2 or 4 statements out of the accused persons, and hoping that they will incriminate the Bester and Dr. Nandipha. As a result, they have to tread carefully, because you cannot make an accused person a Section 204 without them having clear legal advice as to the implications of that. It's not always that you become a Section 204 witness without you having to concede certain things and also having to have some sort of sentence carried out as a result of your part in the crime, depending on how serious it is, of course. But it can be negotiated between your attorney and the state that your sentence can end up being a suspended sentence, or it can be correctional services, etc., etc. But I think the most likely one for them to succeed in turning Section 204 would probably be the accused who's not related to Dr. Nandipha, which will then make it easier for them. I don't foresee dad turning on daughter in such a situation.
And in terms of Magudumana and Bester, I mean, they are currently in Tanzania. They were stopped after fleeing the country when they realized that basically the walls appeared to be closing in domestically. People had already reported that they had seen them. Now South African delegation is trying to bring them back to South Africa. In Bester's case, is it as clear-cut as just putting him on a plane and sending him back to prison because he was already a convicted murderer and rapist?
Yes, it should be that he wouldn't be, okay, it's twofold that he should be sent back. But now there's a second crime that he's now dealing with, which is that of escaping from prison and arson and most likely murder that he's dealing with. So now South Africa has to now deal with these other two charges that he will inevitably face when he comes back. Just because he's serving sentence doesn't mean that he cannot face these charges either. So now it's a matter of now dealing with these other charges and dealing with all the red tape surrounding having the accused extradited back to South Africa in order for him to face those charges. Same thing with Dr. Nandipha as well.
And just on Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, how much trouble is she in? She is, as we know from the reporting, is Thabo Bester's alleged lover who reached out to him while he was already serving time for rape and murder. She is basically, from what's been in the reports, this is not in a formal charge sheet, accused of helping him hatch this plan basically, get out of jail. She's also accused of claiming multiple bodies from government mortuaries. One of the reports recently alleged that Dr. Magudumana had in fact claimed the body of a man that she said was her father, only for that body from a government mortuary to be found in a dam in the Free State with the tag, the identity tag, still attached to the toe. So how much legal trouble is she in at the moment?
She's in a world of trouble because she's facing not only aiding and abetting Thabo Bester, she is now dealing with, obviously, the likelihood of murder. She's dealing with the likelihood of arson. She's dealing with theft, because if she took those bodies from the mortuary, per the reports, it's under false pretense. So now family members of those bodies have lost that body. That's already theft on its own. And then there is a crime that deals with mutilating a corpse. Because now she ended up having, it is alleged at least that she threw the body into the river and all of those things with the tag still there. And then she's still facing the HPCS, where she will be no doubtedly be removed as a doctor from there, and also they could have a world of trouble. All of those only less than 10 years for each of them, by the way, for what she has done.
Nthabiseng Dubazana, legal analyst, always good to have your time. Thank you so much for being on Newzroom Afrika tonight.